So today I'm going to go through the back end of CXAIR. So within the administration side of CXAIR, we have these things called search engines. So these house our indexes. So in this example, my search engine is the back end demo search engine, and this search engines are used as a first level of security, so we can choose what groups can actually see a particular set of indexes. So an index itself is made up of three layers: the data source group, and the index. So the data source is the connection details. The data source group is where it's physically stored on disk in an optimized flat file, and the index layer is the presentation of the data that we want to see in the front end. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to go into the database wizard and show you an example creating all three levels in one go. Okay, so if I'm just going to pick new, and for this example I'm going to pick CSV, but for what you can see from the database type is there's a range of different databases, so we can use SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, etc. So if I just pick CSV and then choose a CSV from my directory, so I'm going to pick sales 2 in this example, and just call my index sales 2. Next I'm going to open column mapping. So what column mapping shows me is what fields are found from the source system, so there's 6 fields here, whether it detects it as a text or a number field, and what you can actually do is force that to be something else. So you can either force it to be, say, a number field, a date field, or you can do some anonymizations as well, so you can use encryption methods like MD5 and SHA. So in this example I'm just forcing the period to come through as a date field. And then we've also got these dates split out, so if you want to split that date out by day or month, week, etc., you can do. Then we've got our build types, so we've got complete, incremental, timeline, and cumulative. So this just allows us to decide whether our data is built completely every time, complete refresh, or whether it comes in incrementally or is a snapshot style reporting with our timeline builds. Okay, so for this example I'm going to pick complete refresh, and I'm going to pick the index size to be less than 100,000. Okay, and then I'm just going to pick it to go into the backend demo search engine, and I'm going to create that. Okay, now from the database wizard home screen, I can actually search for the index that I've just brought in. I can see already that it's been indexed from the status. It's got 12,300 documents, and I can go to the front end now and have a look at them 12,000. Okay, and as you can see, it's brought through them fields, and it's also brought through the period as a date itself, not as a numeric, as it wanted to bring through as auto-detected. Okay, so if I actually wanted to union this now to my sales index, what I can do at data source group is I can union the two data sources and put them into one index. So I can bring in data source sales, the data source sales 2, and they'll both now just go into my index, into my data source group of sales, and then into my index of sales. And in extra fields here, we can then add any calculated fields that we want to add to complement this. Okay, so I'm just going to rebuild that now. So what you should see is before sales had 30,000 matches, 30,000 records, and sales 2 had 12,000. So put them together and you get the 42,615 you can see indexed in front of you now. Okay, and again we can go and look into this in the front end, so you can see the 42,000 matches, and you can see all the records there. Okay, so this is quite an easy way of where in SQL you might have to use a particular statement to do a union, that you can just do it by doing it at the data source group level. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is the unstructured indexes. So as well as bringing in data from structured data, we can also bring in data from unstructured data sources. So this can be from file systems that have got PDFs, Word documents, etc., or there's numerous different ways we can bring data in, so it can be from a website, etc. So in this example I've got these 3 Word documents that are invoices, and as you can see it gives me the directory of where they're coming from, what text is appearing in it, the file name, and also a bit about the file itself. So now in the extra fields in the data source group, you can see that actually I can create some regular expressions calculations against this. So using regular expressions, we can split data out from a Word document and actually turn something like a Word document or a PDF into a more structured table style index. So here you can see we're bringing in things like the invoice amount, so we're saying when it finds the invoice amount, then capture that next value of data and store it as a number. Okay, so now if I change my display field layout to table, you can see now that these three invoices have been split out: invoice date, account ref, item, etc. Okay, now if I click on the Word document itself and I go into it, okay, so what you should be able to see now is that you can see where, for example, invoice date appears and then the date, invoice number, etc. So we're looking for a particular bit of text and then we're capturing the next what comes after that, essentially. And this can be really useful to bring unstructured and structured data together. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you is our amalgamated indexes. So what we can do with amalgamated indexes is we can actually join CXAIR indexes together. So what this allows us to do is sort of like you would in SQL, as you can use different types of join methods to bring indexes together. So I'm going to use the amalgamated wizard now, and I'm going to open up this transactions one that I've done previously. Okay, so if I open up my first join, so sales to customers, what you can see then is that we've got the data source one is sales, so the first index is sales, the second is customers, it's joining on an outer join, and then it's linking on the customer code to the code, and then it shows you the fields that I want to bring through from each of them. Again, with the second one, we've got sales to products, so data source 1, sales, data source 2, products, join type, it's an outer join again, linking on product code, and bringing through them fields again. Okay, and finally we've got sales to invoices, so this one's slightly different. We've actually got a load of different link fields in here because we didn't have one that was unique enough. So as you can see, you can add multiple link fields and do the same, bring through the fields you want to see, and now I can build that. Okay, and now in my amalgamated wizard, I can now refresh it and you can see that it's built with the 42,000 records. And then we can go to the front end, navigate to transactions, and you can, as you can see, we've got all these fields that are coming through now from them multiple different sources. If I pick a particular invoice file, now you can see that it actually links, so that invoice itself links to a sales record in the structured data source, and you can see that how much the invoice amount is, and what the actual split of the quantity, product price, etc. is. Okay, and then I'm going to navigate back to the back end, and the next thing I'm going to show you is rules. So what are rules? So rules are our way of doing validation and updates to the data. So we can do essentially we can do ETL style rules onto the data source. So we can see, for example, this one, which is not null. So this is just checking that the data is present and it's using it as a validation rule. The next one, if I go into group code, what you can see is that we are looking for particular codes to appear, so A, B, D, G, and S. Okay, so if I do a little test here, if I put G, then it's obviously going to be correct, but if I put X, then that doesn't exist in them values. And finally, this alcohol group rule. So what this is doing is an update. So this is saying when you find the code A, B, D, G, or S, for A, B, G, and S, then I want it to be alcoholic, and for D, I want it to give us a non-alcoholic. So it's going to give us a new field that gives us a description on the alcohol group. Okay, so if I navigate to the system overview, I can then go into my transactions rules data source. So you can see this is applied on the transactions data source group. You can now see which fields have got a rule applied against them. So file not null, group code has the alcohol group and the group code against it, and that's outputting a new field called alcohol grouping. And then we're checking quantity is a non-negative integer. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and build this again. So what we should see is this is going to go up to our 42,000 records. So this is still an impact of them 12,000 additional records coming in from sales too. Okay, so now if we go back into the front end, we can see what this has done to the data itself. So in our transaction rules index, I can go into view this. So what you can see, we've got all these fields again, but what we've got here now is an alcohol grouping field that's been mapped from the code, so D to alcoholic, etc. And then if we scroll across, we can see that we've got what rules have passed, what failed, how many of each have happened. And if, for example, I was to click on the column header for rules failed minor, what we can see is what rules have failed. I can do a show count to see how many of them have failed. So 11 have failed as being a non-negative integer. So for these 11, if I click on the quantity column header, you can see they're all negative values. So that means the rules actually working there and finding negative integers. Okay, so now if I navigate back to the admin side, and I'm going to go through filters. So filters are our ETL style indexes, so we can do stored procedure type style calculations on our data. So from our transactions rules index, I can give a key in an order, so it'll split it by customer code over the period, and then I can set particular calculations that I want to see. So for example, certain flags. So I can see is first minimum, so it'll give me the first period that appears for that customer code. I've got an is max gross profit, so that's going to show me the maximum gross profit for that customer, and also an is last max. Then we've got the copy, so in here we can do things like concatenations of fields, etc. Positional, so we can see the next or previous values within our index. So it gives us from one line the value on the next line if we use next, and if you use previous, the previous. We can give it a sequence number, etc. Then we've got aggregations, so here I'm doing a maximum on gross profit, so this will give us the max value of the gross profit, which is different to the flag. So the flag will give you a true or false on when it's the maximum gross profit. This one's going to then actually give you the value of the maximum gross profit against each line. And again with the count, it's going to give us the count of the descriptions across the whole of that customer. We've then also got banding and ranking, and also additional, so we can actually do rank our values within the index. Okay, so if I just go in and build that now, again you'll see the value go from 30-odd thousand to 42,000. Brilliant. Okay, so if I go into the front end again now, and I can go into my transaction filters index, and here I can now see that these fields have been brought through. So my flags is first min, is last max, so you can see true and false is appearing. Gross profit is max, true and falses. Gross profit max itself is then obviously a numeric, so the maximum for that customer code. So if I pick customer code CA010, then I can see a range of different information for that customer code. So for example, the very first one you can see is the first minimum period. So if I wanted to actually look at when the gross profit was at its maximum, so I can click on the column header, gross profit is max, I can pick true, and now that's giving me the line where the gross profit maximum is equal to the gross profit, and so this is obviously the highest max gross profit for that customer. And you can see the description of this, the description count, so we've got 904 descriptions for these customer. Okay, and that's everything. Thank you.